Hello, I am Stephanie Joy, the attorney at All Things Social Security and Joy Disability Law. Your video is about to start. I just wanted to remind you that if you click the join button below, you can learn more about the memberships offered at a very affordable price that can give you a little more direct attorney answers to your questions. Have a great day and enjoy the video. Good afternoon. Okay, the sequential evaluation process, that is the part that occurs, well, it actually starts occurring in the field office, I believe, which is where they do step 1. And then it goes on to step 2, 3, 4, 5. We have videos on that, a whole sequence of them. If you go to the playlist, sequential evaluation process. The question was, what is the longest step? I would say, yes, the longest step is step 3. This is where they look to see, well, it's after you didn't have a listing, so your medical records did not illustrate a listing. And when that happens, then they have to figure out your RFC, residual functional capacity, because that is the other avenue of prevailing on a disability claim. It is the one I believe is most prevalent. I prepare all my cases with both in mind, and the bigger battle is always trying to prove that the RFC of your client, the residual functional capacity of your client, is such that it makes him unable to perform all jobs in the economy, all 12,000, because all 12,000 or any and all of the 12,000 require an RFC with more capacity than he has. You know, it doesn't mean that he's got to be relegated to sedentary work necessarily. It depends on the situation and the person's vocational profile and his impairments. But there could be a set of jobs that he could do, except for the fact that he had a finger or two that he can't, let's say he can't feel them. They're just like, he can move them, but he doesn't really feel when they touch things. If the jobs that require that, are considered ones he could otherwise do, now he can't do them. So the residual functional capacity is not just your exertional. That's like the broader thing: sedentary, light, medium, heavy, very heavy. That's not the limit. That's not the end of the story. It's all those other limitations that are found in the physical RFC, manipulative limitations or capacities, which usually involve the hands, the fingers, handling, gripping, fingering, manipulating, feeling. If there's postural, stooping, bending, that kind of thing. There's environmental, the air quality, temperature, asthma is going to be related to that, obviously. And it can also impact a person's ability to do higher exertional work as well. So the RFC is part of step 3 when you've had to continue on in your case to prove it because it didn't prove disability under the listing, and you continue on with step 3, and in that step, they do that residual functional capacity, in which case then you go down to step 4 and step 5. So that step, because it entails, number one, I mean, technically, they should have gotten all of your medical records before they determine if you met a listing, right? If that's necessarily the case, I can't really say for sure because they will be, hold on one second. I'm sorry about that. That was, I'm not going to tell you. Okay. It had to do with a teenager. Yeah, so it's but prior to figuring out if you can be awarded on a listing, they have to get all those medical records and be thorough. Perhaps a consultative examination or 2, and determining if you meet a listing. Most people don't meet a listing, so that's when they continue to review those documents, say, well, they don't meet a listing, but what is the residual functional capacity? So we can determine if there is enough capacity to do any of the other 12,000 jobs in the regional or national economies that exist in substantial numbers. So that's quite an arduous task, I'd say. It's, they're relying on medical providers sending them in a timely fashion. I will say now that they have the the HITMER, the automated way of gathering them from health networks with whom they have an agreement to do so, using your already signed SSA 827. So when you hear from your doctor that the SSA requested your medical records, I have seen this, where someone freaks out and they're like, I don't want the government having my medical records. I go, what do you think we're doing here? We're asking the government to give you your insurance benefits, and you have to prove you're disabled, and you signed this SSA 827 for that purpose. I mean, you could have gone and bought your records from your providers, every single one, and left nothing out, and by all means, but I didn't see you raising your hand to do that. I mean, why would you not have the SSA do it? I have had, it's rare. It's rare that I see someone freak out because now their records, I guess they just thought they make the claim and voila, whatever they say is so. Freaking out that their medical records are going to be in the hands of the government, or I guess anybody else. Not sure where the line was drawn, but that's probably happened at least twice. Now that's not a lot, obviously. I've been doing this for 20 years, so it's rare. But the SSA is very confidential, so I'm not concerned about it. Yes, you're going to say, but what about those data breaches? That wasn't actually the SSA data breach. That was other places that have your information, not the SSA. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of work to be done at step 3. And I think that's where the bulk of the time is spent. And then after step 3, then they say, okay, we've got this RFC. What is the necessary RFC for their prior work? That's probably not the longest of endeavors with that, because they have their vocational people. So that I think happens pretty fast. Once they know your RFC, all those jobs already have RFCs kind of in the DOT. In a sense, what kind of capacity does someone need for all this? What are all the requirements of that job? And then after that, if you can do your prior work, obviously you lose. And if you cannot, you go to step 5. And then they determine, well, he can't do his prior work, but is there any other jobs? Can you hear the dog? He's whining. He wants dinner. He's going to have to wait a minute. Any other jobs in the economy that the person can do. And they can literally just probably very automated plug in your RFC and boom, here's a list of the jobs that you can supposedly do, given the RFC they assigned you. And someone had asked me not that long ago, do they tell us what what RFC they've come to? No, they don't. When you go to an ALJ hearing and he or she, drafts or comes to a decision and it gets drafted up, it will then have the RFC, the ALJ found that fits you based on the medical records. Remember, its medical records are the foundation of your entire case. Everything else is kind of like gravy. So you need to focus on that treat. And I have a video. It's a little dated now, but it's exactly true today about the importance of treating for big and small things. Do not limit your treatment to only what took you out of your past job. If you didn't really have to use your hands for any fine manipulations, and you don't even get them treated because you don't really need them that much, you can still manage to hold a cup of coffee and do maybe broad things with it, like take your laundry out. People don't bother with the fact that, well, they couldn't be writing anymore or typing because they have arthritis. That is something you want to get worked up, because that is going to eliminate a lot of jobs if you have significant arthritis in your fingers. Jobs that, might not be wiped out by that problematic back you have, because problematic back is generally not going to wipe you out of sedentary work. Sometimes not even light work. So you need these other little things to start carving away. As I describe it, with this big basket of 12,000 occupations, and we need to carve out every single one of them. So it's a fine threading of a needle. Get all those smaller parts worked up. When I mean worked up, I mean with diagnostics and follow-up, not just a one-hit wonder, not just going and complaining about it once, not just using your PCP. I'd say most things deserve the attention of a specialist, which will give you stronger opinion, because a specialist weight is probably going to be heavier than a primary care doctor who does not specialize in that kind of intricacy of your problem. Alrighty, so step 3, I think it's the longest. That would be my opinion. If anyone, including my colleagues, think differently, spot on. Let's hear it, because I could be mistaken. I just don't think I am. Bye now. Have a great one, guys.